Hello, everybody. Russell Hill with WTF, and that's what the fixed ops to all of you out there today. So we have a very special event today. This is called our Then and Now, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. But today I'm joined by...
I'm Charity. I'm the co-host here. Now I want to introduce our guest today. We're excited to have on the show again, Brian Kramer. He's the EVP of Cars Commerce and the General Manager of Accu-Trade. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back on, Charity.
Yeah, we thought this was so great because perfect for this brand new series, Then and Now. And I think Brian forgot right before I mentioned it, but the last time he was on, then he was still the general manager at Germain Toyota of Naples. So we're glad to have you back on. And what the heck are you doing now, Brian?
Well, now I'm a civilian. I feel like I left, the battle of being in the dealership world, and I've, detached from that, and I've been able to get a really interesting perspective and learn to kind of get my doctorate's degree, I would say, over the last 2 years, going around the country and interacting with so many different people, and just being able to go inside of so many amazing operator, dealerships, and be able to see how they do it, how they do things so well, how things change geographically. It's been a wild ride.
You remind me. No, Charity, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, what do you do now that's different from what you did as a GM? What's your average day kind of look like?
Oh,
well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So somebody just asked me that question a couple of days ago. So no 2 days are the same. So when I was, running the dealerships in Naples, Florida, every single day I would go in and everything was a cadence of consistency. They'd start off and walk back through the shop, and you come, back through, and I would do the same cadence, say hello to the same people at the same time every single day, doc meeting at the same time, training, trade walk, so on and so forth, CIT meeting. And then hopefully everything was done by 10 o'clock, because then the bullets started flying. You never knew what to expect or what employee things were going to come up, or upset clients, or hurricanes, and all this, reactive stuff all day long.
sure.
But now it's a lot more strategic. It's still extremely busy, but I'm either traveling or on Zoom calls most of the day. But at least I can schedule everything, because there's not a lot of unexpected chaos that's going on. But if I'm not here in Naples where I'm at today, I'm traveling. Like next week I'll be in Los Angeles, and I'll start off in Irvine. I'm going to be working with one dealer group in a meeting with a bunch of their general managers. In the afternoon I'll be with another dealer group, and then I'll start working my way up north from each day. I'll go a little further north in Los Angeles. But it depends on, every single dealership is a little bit different. So with some, we might be talking about the platform, the Cars Commerce platform, which is Dealer Inspire websites. It's Dealer Rater, Cars.com, and then Accu-Trade, our appraisal acquisition tool. But everybody uses those products in different ways. So we might have a dealer group, like one of the dealer groups I'm working with wants to get really aggressive on acquiring cars off the service drive. And they want to figure out how we're going to leverage that. What are the processes? What should the pay plans look like? So I'd say it's more like consulting. So it's like being a GM, or at least telling them what worked at like Germain Toyota. And every group, every dealership, every geographic region has their own nuances. So it's actually really cool to see so many different people winning in different ways and being able to help them. Or I was in New York and I saw this way to get around that, so this could help you out with this. And so kind of working with groups on a bespoke level, I guess, to try to customize those things, public and private groups. And then also asking them, what do they wish that our products did? How could we remove roadblocks? How do they use Cars.com? How do they integrate the websites? And I'm trying to help connect. How do we connect the actual online experience with everything, scheduling service, booking appointments, to then connect? And I think I have a unique perspective on that, to be able to connect it into the showroom as to how they can bring it to life from an operational standpoint and execute on that strategy.
Did you know it was going to be that way? Meaning that you left a comfort zone for something, and Germain is a large organization, but not like Cars Commerce. There's so much to it. Did you know exactly what it was going to be, or is it one of those things that you had some idea you were going to help them navigate Accu-Trade and build that much bigger? Was that the objective, and has it turned into something else? And do you enjoy it? Because it sure seems like all the rooms I see you in, you do.
I do, and I loved what I was doing with the Germains, and the Germains are an amazing group, and I still work with them, on a regular basis in Naples and in Columbus, and I'm a little biased, but I'm sure that they're my favorite group to work with.
Of course you are,
and I didn't,
right?
and I didn't know how that was going to go, if because I worked with them since I was a little kid, and luckily we still got a great working relationship and still able to help them out in that way. But no, what I thought it was going to be versus what it is are two different things. But it's always like that, right? When you go into a dealership, it's never what you think it's going to be.
No.
And I've learned a lot more than I ever dreamt that I would learn. And it's been extremely educational from a marketing standpoint, from a digital standpoint, how much I didn't know about that whole part of the business that I thought I knew a lot more about, or the things that I've learned laterally from other dealerships by asking them questions about what they're trying to accomplish or how they're doing certain things, and being able to transfer that knowledge into our software to remove roadblocks for other dealers. But initially, to answer your question, it was to scale Accu-Trade. The Accu-Trade acquisition had just happened. Robert Hollinshead and he'd been mentoring me for a few years, and he's the founder of Accu-Trade, and as well as KBB ICO and Autotrader and many other things. But in going through it, he introduced me to Alex Vetter. Alex Vetter is the CEO of Cars Commerce, or Cars.com at the time. And we talked about it, and they were looking at the performance at those stores. And do you think you could scale this nationally? And they said, what do you think it would look like? And we all agreed that it would transform automotive retail as we currently know it, with being able to empower every dealership associate to be able to appraise cars. Absolutely. The same way that anybody can get on a payment calculator. So it started off like that, but the job has morphed into being able to work with all the different parts of our platform to eventually our end goal is to simplify everything about selling and servicing cars.
That's a great end goal. I know with all the rooms I'm in with you, you kind of remind me of an old commercial with E.F. Hutton. So when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody stops and listens. And there's been comments about that even when you're not in the room. And then all of a sudden you appear. I don't know if somebody texts you and say, hey, Brian, they're talking about you, hop in or something like that. But you bring a tremendous amount of wealth of knowledge and value to the industry because of all the things you learn from all the different dealers in all different parts of the country and how you're making this flow. I want to make sure that everybody knows about Accu-Trade. So talk a little bit about exactly what are the feature, advantages, and benefit of Accu-Trade.
So it's an acquisition tool. A lot of people say it's an appraisal tool or it's an instant offer, guaranteed offer, but in the shortest way possible, it's the most accurate, acquisition tool on the planet. And it will put a guaranteed number on more vehicles than any other software tool out there. 98.5% of the vehicles that get, on a website at night on Sundays when dealerships closed, you're going to get a guaranteed number. And that includes vehicles over $100,000. It includes EVs. It includes an hour after Elon Musk drops the price on a Tesla 10 grand or a Ford Lightning 10 grand. Our price is already adjusted. You don't have to wait for auction values to come back that quick. Guaranteed. The volatile, let's say Jeep or Dodge or whoever lowers the MSRP of a vehicle $6,000, an hour later our prices are updated.
Wow.
In a guaranteed way. So it's the same number. It's not a customer sees one price and then they come in, it's a different price. It's designed for simplicity. It's designed for scale. It's designed for speed. And it's designed to enable everybody. And my 13-year-old daughter can appraise cars with this tool. It's so simple. it's like paint by numbers. And we'll go to a lot of dealerships and they've got 30, 40, 50 salespeople or employees appraising vehicles at scale, tripling, quadrupling the numbers. And service drive acquisition is a huge part of that.
So tell us about the tool and how it works, because somebody's not, I mean, what do they have to do to get this number?
Right. And everybody's like, well, yeah, we've got an appraisal tool, or we've got something on our website to give you a number. And we've got the least amount of clicks and least amount of steps in order to do that. So you can either do it on somebody's website and type in the license plate number and miles, and within less than 2 minutes, you got a guaranteed number. In the showroom, there's an app, and the app is a big part of our secret sauce. But all you have to do, you can do it on a piece of paper even. You don't even have to have the car unlocked. You can do it right through the windshield. But it just scans any VIN. You type in the miles. It's got this option, that option, and it's done. So it's really that fast. Yeah, and so it's really just simplified that part of it, because I think there's been a lot of unnecessary complexity in that since the beginning of time. So think about this: if I was always trained, well, hey, what's the best price on, I want this for my trade. Well, you know what? Trading depends on a lot of different things, including this and this. Do you want you're looking for a 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive? Well, I really need to know can you at least estimate what my trade's worth? Well, your presence is your leverage. When can you get here and all that stuff, right? Versus training a BDC rep, a receptionist, an ASM, a salesperson. Hey, what's my trade worth, Russell? Well, hey, what's your cell phone number? I'll text it to you and you'll have a number in less than 2 minutes.
Wow. So I'm sitting here thinking, just listening to you, and I knew a little bit about it, but I want to make sure that everybody that watches this also knows a little bit more about it. And I know there's different philosophies about, do you give a price or you don't give a price and stuff like that. I don't even want to start dancing around with that one, because that could go down a wormhole. But I'm thinking every dealer you talk to would want this, regardless of who they're using right now. I know some of the other tools out there, they seem to be pretty complex, and they really don't guarantee, and the numbers seem to change from time to time. Yours does not do that.
We guaranteed a $850,000 Ford GT a month ago and acquired it from the dealer.
Wow.
And they didn't know what to do with it. And we're the only ones that'll do that.
That's huge. Do you get any pushback? Are you cultivating? A lot of it's probably word of mouth because you're Brian Kramer. Okay. And if you don't really know Brian, you're going to get to know more, and you can go back and look at the then episode versus the now episode. But he's all over LinkedIn and Zoom calls and clubhouses and you name it. The guy's everywhere. And I hear you talking, but you talk about a lot of other things too. So he's very knowledgeable in a lot of different areas, particularly regarding just what's going on in the market, period. But do you get pushback or
yes.
Okay. And where do you think that comes from? One, just not knowing and saying no, which they don't have enough information to get a yes, I'm sure. But what do you do in those types of situations?
So a lot of the pushback that we get and continue to get is kind of what you just said, not to go down that rabbit hole, but a lot of people don't want to give somebody a number out of fear. And they fear that if I give somebody a number that they're going to shop me and they're going to do this, but I can go into the data, which you've heard me do ad nauseum, but the data, not my opinion, says that if you don't give a client an exact number or a number at all, then they're going to bounce and they're going to go to somebody else's website that will. Because it's 2024 and information is readily available. It's very similar to customer wanting to know the invoice in 2003. And Edmunds had it online and we wouldn't give it to them in the showroom. And it would go back and forth and back and forth. And all they have to do is back then they couldn't get on their cell phone. But now, and I experienced this in retail, if we did that in the showroom, the customer, while we were arguing with each other about it, would just get on Carvana's website or CarMax's website and get the information while they were waiting for us to not tell them the information. And then they would eventually come back without the trade. That's happening now, either in the showroom, service drive, or on the website. There's two transactions in every single deal, as David Spizak says all the time. You've got to sell them on selling you their trade before they can be sold on on buying something from you. And I don't think a lot of dealership associates look at it that way. They look at it as it's easier if there's no trade involved. I don't have to do as much paperwork. And I see a lot of people all over the country sending their clients to Carvana's website or CarMax's website, or the customer's going there anyway, and nobody's really connecting the dots on this. And you start looking at these massive numbers of what CarMax and Carvana are acquiring. Carvana's stock, is skyrocketing. Everybody thought they were left for dead. But the secret sauce to their whole deal is just transparency and giving everybody that information. I mean, what people will appraise a car off the service drive for in many cases, and then they'll say the process doesn't work, is they're not paying what they would pay or close to it at the auction. And everybody has a shortage of used cars. And really the key is two things: transparency and just being, clear and fast with customers. And the other one is decentralizing and really enabling and empowering your staff to be able to appraise cars and give a number, and trusting them, or at least hiring people and then investing the time to train them so they can. My onboarding was an ashtray license plate, and hey, there's a 60 or 70% chance you're not going to make it, kid. So, good luck. And no support whatsoever, just figure it out, and just absolute hazing. So it was more like a Navy SEAL type, real brutal type onboarding. That's why I spent so much time on onboarding, because I didn't want people to go through that, because the amount of people that will put up with that, that have that type of thick skin, that's just not the way it is. And really, I don't think that that's the right way to do it. It's not setting people up for success. It doesn't have to be that way, right?
No, you're setting them up for failure.
Right. And just because, and that's what happens all the time, is they would say, look, you're still getting more support than I did. You get more training than I did. Well, that doesn't make it right. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. And
that's right.
I feel like every single time that I've been promoted throughout my career, I made a commitment every single time somebody did something horrible to me, which there was many, that I would, why don't you just quit? Why are you going to put up with that? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get myself in a position where I can do something about that, because I'm not going to allow that to happen when I'm in a role like that.
And that's amazing.
So I think that the same way now, I've had these amazing mentors that not everybody gets a chance to have. And I feel like it's an obligation, but you got to pay it forward.
Yeah. Great stuff. Charity.
Well, you mentioned something earlier, a little bit about fear. And I'm curious, Brian, I don't really associate you with this word, but I'm curious if you have had any fear, maybe in this transition to Cars Commerce, or, when was the last time you were fearful?
Oh yeah, that was definitely a fearful thing. And it's into the unknown, but actually I prefer discomfort from, maybe I'm a sadist, but I do too. I think that doing the same thing every single day becomes redundant, and it's not as exciting. And I like to innovate, and I love to surround myself with innovative minds, like the conversation that we're having right now, and being able to interact with all the amazing dealers that I've been able to interact with, and then just different people within the industry and people within Cars Commerce. There's so many people that, we've got that have worked at Amazon and worked at, Oracle and Google, and have these amazing perspectives. So it's a culture of innovation, and being surrounded by all these unique perspectives has been really invigorating. But yeah, it is very scary, and a lot of times I question, I see it working very well for a lot of dealers. And then a lot of dealers like, I'm still making plenty of money, and I don't feel like doing this, and I can still be successful, not being transparent and not doing these things that you're talking about. And sometimes you question yourself, and you're like, should we go an easier way? Should I just, let them not be as transparent, which is not the right answer. But those thoughts cross your mind, because, there's a ton of rooftops if you kind of get more lax in terms of not standing on principles and being so disciplined and being so set on doing the right thing.
It's this morning I talked about it in David's room, about people doing the same thing, expecting different results. And it's critical for me. And I've had people ask me at my age, 4.5 years ago, starting a new company from scratch is scary as hell. I mean, and you question yourself all the time. What am I doing? What are you thinking? But I learned many, many years before that for me, being comfortable, there's nothing wrong with being comfortable. In this particular scenario, being comfortable is a dangerous place for me because I become comfortable. Oh no, I can't think of the word.
Bored.
Well, I wasn't stretching. I wasn't growing. And I just make it a point to associate with people that are moving forward. And you know what? For me, life is at the edge of the comfort zone. It's not in the comfort zone because I become complacent, right? That's it. I become complacent and dormant. I just get comfortable. And when you start stretching, man, I'll tell you what, what do? You just do it. You just do it. You figure it out. And building this company, same thing. Dealers saying this and that. We built it around the feedback we get from all the dealers all over the country that are doing different things in different ways. And it just makes us better and better. It sounds like the same thing is happening with you. But I still have those moments sometimes where I doubt myself, and I quickly find ways to pull myself out by talking to somebody like you or David or some, A-Flow or some of the other people, Brad and all those people in these rooms that they want the same thing. They're there because they want to associate with people that are making things happen, because a lot of dealers are comfortable. They're comfortable. They just want to continue doing the same thing the same way. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the death of a lot of them if it hasn't already. Do you think that as well? That people need to innovate and there needs to be a level of transparency that just hasn't been out there?
Yeah, and innovation lowers turnover. When we started enabling our staff to be able to appraise cars, and I'm going to obviously hammer that,
Please.
This topic that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
When we let all 50 salespeople appraise cars, and they don't have to go back to the desk, go back and forth. Hey, they want this. They're able to do that, and they're more empowered, and they can take the customer further through the process. They don't have to wait 15 or 20 minutes for somebody to get freed up to go out there and appraise a car. And that's just one example of many. Being able to pull payoffs, complete credit apps themselves, or a lot of the things that people aren't allowed to do. It's crazy to me. But when people, we started enjoying a lot of success at that Toyota store. And then, of course, with that, you start getting the competitors trying to recruit all your people on a regular basis, which I've been on both sides of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they started recruiting our people, a lot of them came back like confession, and they would say, hey, in case you hear about it, I was talking to this store, I was talking to this Nissan store. And I'm like, okay, so what was it that attracted you? Because I used to get all defensive back 20 years ago, and get all hot.
I've heard some of those stories. Yeah. Yeah.
But then in my, later years, at least I like to remember them that I was calm. But as I'm asking, I'm like, so what attracted you to go over there? Well, they said they'd offer me more money, better pay plan, sign-on bonus, blah, blah, blah. Then why didn't you go over there? And they said, and there was a lot of people that we took that were non-automotive that didn't know any different. And they said, can you believe that they don't let, you're not allowed to appraise cars? You know how much longer that would take? I couldn't sell this many cars. Or you can't pull payoffs, and their whole process is backwards, and it takes so long. And I was watching people, and the customers are there for 3 or 4 hours. And I think that a lot of people look at innovation like it's like I'll wait until I have to in order to do it. But when you do that, that's what people are attracted to. If somebody can work at, you pick whatever auto manufacturer. Let's say you're an engineer designing EVs, EV technology, whatever. If you can work at Tesla, or you can work at, you pick the OEM, where are they going to work? If everything's the same, they're going to go after the innovation because they want to be part of that. And the same thing applies in dealerships, is that everybody wants to be a part of that. The other thing that I'll pin that down with is, for me, I want to work with innovative dealers. And that might be a little bit selfish, but
not at all.
It is what I want to be invigorated by them. And a couple of things that have happened here recently, I'm working with dealers, and and I'm always asking them, like Chip Perry used to ask me, or Mike Maroney used to ask me, what's next? What do you think we should be looking at? What are we not seeing? What's in our blind spot? And I get these amazing ideas from people, and it's morphing right now. We're in a partnership connecting with Hunter Alignment Racks, and then after that, UVI, and we're going to be appraising cars through the service drive, so that by the time the customer gets out of the car, all that technology has already been loaded into our appraisal tool. they step out, the tread depth's already measured with, and it's different with each tool, but in some cases you'll have the photos done, OBD done, integration, OBD2 readings. But imagine if all you have to do is just verify the miles, and that can eventually be pulled down with the OBD. So by the time that the customer gets out, there's really nothing to do. The car's already appraised. That what can you do then? And that's kind of the conversations that I'm having now with these really innovative dealers. Well, would you text it to them? Would you email it to them? Would you have somebody there? And like, I don't know. Yeah. So it's kind of like inventing the future. The difference with what I'm doing now is I've got which you can appreciate, Russell, I've got a software and development team that I can actually bring it to life instead of it just being like a conversation. Yeah. I don't think there's anything more exciting than that.
That is exciting. I got something to say about that. Charity, do you have a question? Yeah, she's got some good questions. We never get to them all. Yeah,
I've got
please.
A few, but let me pick one. Something you mentioned a few minutes ago reminded me of a conversation I had with Russell not too long ago, and we're starting a new adventure, a new career. There's a lot of excitement and thrill with that. And we mentioned just briefly, like how the day can become very monotony for people. So I wanted to ask you, you seem very energetic, very passionate. How do you maintain that momentum? It's been 2 years since we saw you last time. How do you still have the same energy now that you did then?
I've got more flexibility in my schedule, I would say. So I can, my day definitely doesn't end at 5 o'clock. It just seems like it just continuously goes, right? But I can also, I get to see all of my daughter's volleyball games now, and I can do what I'm doing from anywhere. So having that balance in a different way than what I had previously, and being able to do all those things makes, I guess, everything more interesting and exciting. And there's certain things obviously that are frustrating, and I don't have a lot of patience, as none of us do, and I wish that things would happen twice as fast. And a lot of those things don't make sense to me as to why everybody else can't work around the clock or on the weekends if we're trying to get something done. But that's not reality, and this is not the way the world works. But if that's the worst thing I'm dealing with, then I'd say I'm doing fairly well. And I think that it's just very energizing to be part of changing the industry for the better. And I can't wait. It's just not happening fast enough, from my perspective.
Charity, if you have another question, I got something to say, because I think I know what you might have been looking for on that particular question with our conversation.
I think you do. No, go ahead.
Okay. So Charity and I have had a lot of conversations. Actually, I'm writing a book, or she's writing the book, actually. Okay. But she has a way of doing, I couldn't do it. I'm too ADHD type A. Okay. So we're talking, and I even it's because I'm 65 now. It says, where does your energy come from? How do you keep going? How do you keep innovating? It's not even about the what and how. I'm figuring that out as I'm going along. It's the why. It's the why more than anything, because I get to spend time with you and a lot of other people like you that are thinking outside the box. They're innovators. They're exciting. And this is exciting. And watching the industry grow and the transparency, it creates a level, for me anyway, and we want to know what you think, a level of enthusiasm and excitement that gets me into action, that produces the results. I don't even know how I do some of the things I do, but I get so excited. I just get busy and get into action. I meet people and hear things, and I try different things, and I fail way more than I've ever been successful, but it produces high level of results, right? Hence you reap what you sow. Do you agree with that too? It's more about the why than anything else. The other stuff you can figure out, but if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, the rest just goes to hell in a handbasket. You might as well just be comfortable and sit in your lounge chair.
100%. It's the same way in a dealership too. And if you don't have an overarching why, you will burn out, and you will sit there and start justifying the money and all these other things. Well, I'm putting in all this work, and this is all that I'm making. And if you don't have that North Star, and I think that North Star has to be there for everything in your dealership. What's more important, a set of floor mats on a used car, or a second key, or the customer? And that needs to be really, really clear, not just to the dealer, but to everybody down the line. Because many times the salesperson and the dealer are under that impression, but a lot of people in between are like, no, we're not giving them a set of floor mats. And I don't care. And it's, it's a 2-year-old car. Well, it's not certified. It's not our make. So we're not giving them a second key. And that's just the way it is. And things like that, you have to have a why as to why you're there. And like at Jermaine, it was simple, fast, and easy is what we've set our, North Star on. But then everything had to align with that. So you can't say you're simple, fast, and easy and then have a lot of complexity with your paperwork, internally or externally. You can't have a lot of, deceptive advertising and complex money downs, and where you need a slide rule to figure out the rebate schedule and the incentives and all that stuff. I mean, it's got to be embedded in, and just because you can make a little bit more profit by adding some complexity, you got to decide, is that who we are, and always be going back to that.
Yep.
To your point, I agree.
I am looking for opportunity all the time. That's why I want to associate with people that are looking for opportunity. It's not even really about the money. The money is the end result of what I'm doing. Okay. I believe that. If it's just about the money, it's not going to happen. I'm going to end up sabotaging myself. Been there, done that, failed many times trying to do that. But what you're talking about, what we believe in collectively, everybody here, an opportunity is not an opportunity when everybody thinks it's an opportunity. They've already missed it. So these dealers that don't want to make this transition and start to look and think outside the box, they're going to keep getting the same result, and they're going to miss it. It's about the client. It's about the guest. It's about the customer, whatever you want to call them. Transparency. On the front end to the back end, it's transparent. If we want to turn this thing around and we want to stop 7 out of 10 people that are defecting in the service department, or we want to sell 15% or 20% of everybody that comes in the door, we have to get better at what we're doing. And we have to let them know, if they want a number, give them a number, right? Give them a number.
But you got to stop sawing to sit back and sharpen the blade for a minute. And everything in a dealership is a 30-day sprint. And I remember people coming in from Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, and Toyota. We'd have these meetings, somebody that was partnered with the OEM, and here, let me tell you about setting a North Star and establishing your why. And a lot of times you're so busy and you're like, I don't have time for this. I'm not jumping on this Zoom call, or even before Zoom, and going into this meeting. I don't have time to take a day off and go there. I'm trying to run down this number. And I, for a long time, decades, didn't realize that was the reason why I didn't have any time to attend those things, is because I didn't stop and just pump the brakes for a second and get strategic and figure out what is the most important thing, and then start saying no to everything that didn't align to that. And that's what I think one of the biggest epidemics in the dealer retail world is, they don't know exactly what they stand for. So they are not comfortable saying no to things, and they overcommit to too many things.
That was a defining moment for you. It had to be, because I've had something like that too, because I'm busy all the time. Some of it's not necessarily something I should even be doing, but I found that for me, when people are real busy, those are the people I want to talk to, because I know they want to think, but it's like they find the time. Busy people find the time. There had to be, what was the switch for you when you were talking about just when you were busy, you didn't have time? When was it where you woke up and started making time? When did you shift your priorities? And was there something that made that happen?
Yeah, I had a really good mentor, the same gentleman that David Long talks about all the time, John Malashenko, who pinned me down. And literally, he took us down at the Hocking Hills in Southeast Ohio, in a place where there was no cell phone service. And we had been down there it was right when the recession started. And he took all the GMs down there and had us fill out action plan templates for 3 days. With our variable operations director, Rich Ackman, who still coaches and does that type of work. But I was twitching not having a cell phone even back then. And you didn't have right before the iPhone came out. But even with my BlackBerry, I was still like going crazy. And so, and you weren't leaving, and then it just really slowed everything down for a second. And then we had to figure out what's the most important thing, and then really start talking about, okay, what are the action items that are going to drive those results? How are we going to measure it? Who's accountable for those things? And it was an insanely painful week or weekend or whatever that was. But I still remember it vividly, because I kept on saying, what is this? What's the big deal? We're close enough. Let's just get back up there and sell some cars. And that quarter, we achieved those goals, which led to, okay, what are we going to do the next quarter? We're going to do this again. And I found myself doing that every single quarter until I left retail. I mean, I didn't have to, but it became part of my DNA. And I honestly needed that to be able to say no to everything else. And I think it was a Gallup, or I forget what the organizational system was, but it basically was like, what are the 3 action items? Not 4, not 5, because everybody will sit there and everything's important and then nothing is. And so you couldn't pick more than 3. And it was very hard. What am I going to say no to? And then of those 3, what is the event that's going to move the performance? And like David Long was saying this morning, it has to be measurable from point A to point B. What is that number? When will it be completed by? And who is responsible for it? And then most importantly, which was the uncomfortable part, and then what's the consequence if the goal is not achieved? And that's when it gets real.
Yeah, that was a big topic this morning. Charity, please.
Yeah, well, let me switch the topic on you now. Do you, from your perspective, going around the country and visiting with dealers, do you see any like major obstacles facing dealerships in the near future?
All the good questions today.
That's a hell of a good. That's charity right there, baby.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, EVs are a real controversial topic, right? And I'm not an EV advocate, or but I am a data-minded person. And if you take a look at the growth patterns and the trajectory of EVs, and everybody can argue and debate about why that's happening, the geopolitics and the economic factors that are affecting it. But regardless, it's here, it's a reality, and it needs to be addressed. And what I see like, less than 20% of the dealers that are selling like 80% of the EVs out there and enjoying wild success, while there's 80% that are just saying, I'm not going to participate in that for multiple reasons, right? And I think that everybody needs to realize, no different than hybrids when those came out, and we went through the same transition, or internet sales, or you pick the, transformation piece that occurred.
It's going to end the automotive industry, right? Yeah.
Right. And digital retail, or now I'm talking about letting anybody appraise cars and doing it wherever you want, whenever, with whoever, and which is already happening just with CarMax and Carvana. But when you're talking about the EVs, everybody's going to get there eventually anyway. And the same mindset and like mental block that I still see about digital retail or internet sales, hybrids, is what I see with EVs. Everybody always thinks that it's got to be an all or nothing event. Well, how many people really want EVs? Who cares? If there's 12% of people right now doing it, I want that 12%. And actually, I want 20% if the average is 12%. And I want to be able to get my unfair share of every part of the business, not just that part. So if, if 5% of people are going to buy a car using digital retail, I found it was 6, and I think it might be 7% now. But I know that 92% of my customers did either a selection online, trade value online, credit application online, or uploaded their documents online. So if you're not participating in those because you're not digital retail, then you're missing out on all those opportunities, and somebody else is taking advantage of it. Right. And that's why Carvana stock, when everybody was arguing and wishing, putting a voodoo curse on them when they were $12 a share, and now I think it's $132 this morning. While that's happening, people are making tons of money, becoming wildly successful. And instead of, I think, a lot of dealers, not all, but a lot of dealers asking them, how are they doing it? Or trying to be curious and understand what they're doing so that they can do it and do it better. Mm-hmm. They're trying to poke holes with biases into what they think it is, rather than asking questions to understand what it is. And it's the same way with EVs or anything. So I think that overall, the mindset about change, innovation, AI, which is a whole nother topic, they need to they need to understand that 100% of people aren't going to buy EVs. But as that number gets bigger and bigger, do you really not want to participate? Do you not want to participate in the internet? In 2005, which a lot of people decided not to. I'm not going to price cars online. I'm not going to give a new car price. That's ridiculous. Or when I started selling Oldsmobiles, you can't, unless they give you a credit card, their wallet, a shoe, and sign that they would take delivery of terms and conditions agreeable.
I remember.
I'm not giving them a payment. And that's as insane to me as it was then, as us not giving trade values now. I mean, it's like there's no difference. I always want to know what's the impact of test drives. I always heard 78%, 87% is what, all the closing ratios, what has to happen. But it wasn't like that, right? So I'm looking at it and they're driving around the building. They're not going on the designated route. I'm losing my mind, but I can't say anything because I'm going to affect the test, right?
Yeah.
But I'm realizing after, I think it was 5,000 of these things, that it was just all over the board. There was no rhyme or reason to it. But selection, if they selected the right vehicle back when we had inventory, that drove the numbers like we thought test drives did. So if they selected the right vehicle the first time, it skyrocketed, right? I think it was like 68%. If they had to switch into a second vehicle, it dropped into the 30s. And then if they had to switch into a third vehicle, it was like in the single digits closing ratio wise.
Let me guess, at this very moment, another vendor is walking up to your lot with something shiny to sell. Before you head back and hide in your office, let me take a minute to tell you about my friend Don Pelham and my friends over at Global Dealer Solutions. They exist to help you find solutions to problems, some of which you might not even know you have. Best of all, they can manage as many products and services as needed for you, helping cut down on multiple vendor visits and distractions. And if you need anything, you have one number to call or text for the response all dealers like to hear. On it, GDS understands that successful dealerships require more than a set it and forget it mentality. And they'll be with you every step of the way, from setup, implementation, training, and support. And if necessary, they'll even cancel non-performing products for you. No pushback, no arguments, just a solutioneer executing course corrections as needed. Check out gdsdealers.com to learn the difference and set up a time to meet. Let's see if they're a good fit for you.
Oh, it's so true. Oh.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you did mention AI. What are your thoughts on AI? Do you think that will affect the automotive industry?
Oh yeah. I think it's going to be, and it's just going to become more and more exponential, especially by 2027. At the rate that it's currently going, and everybody's always saying, well, the big debate point, is it going to replace jobs? Yeah, it's going to replace some jobs. And that's just the reality of it, right? It's not going to replace them all, but it's also going to replace some and create a lot more, like the internet did. The internet eliminated a ton of jobs and created a lot more, and AI will be the same, except I think probably like 1,000x. But the way I see it is like this: when the internet came out, there was a lot of people pushing back and weren't curious about it, but now it's just, we're on it right now, right? And it's just part of our life, and AI will be the same thing, and in the same way. It'll only be the ones that decide not to participate and not to understand it, that aren't able to leverage it and utilize it, that end up getting replaced. And then 5 years, 10 years after that, they'll be forced to adapt and use it anyway, and they won't have a choice. But there's a lot of laggards that are going to wait till the last minute and hold out. But it's beyond inevitable. I look at it like I looked at the internet, as an accelerator, and make my life easier. And let's figure out how to harness it. And let's figure out how to be first to market, to be able to leverage this before everybody else figures it out, to give ourselves a competitive advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I heard numbers like by 2030, it'll be a 17 trillion. It's unfathomable industry. And it is. People say, oh, it's not going to, it's going to replace jobs. And the current jobs you have,
it's doing it already.
Yeah, it is. The current job descriptions that you have right now are going to change. It's going to incorporate, and it's hard for me to even keep up with. And we use AI in our company. I mean, there's so
CRMs.
Yeah,
will be within 5 years will be unidentifiable from what they are right now, and AI will be running in the background, and it will. I think we've talked about this before. I think it's going to bring back human face-to-face interaction, because it's going to take care. Right now, you go into a dealership, and all the salespeople are just staring at a computer in a CRM, clearing out their tasks, texting, emailing, canceling, and doing all this stuff. It takes 3 to 4 hours to get rid of all the stuff in their CRM that AI could just wipe out. And then if somebody does express interest, now you engage in the human interaction. And now it almost brings it back full circle to the way it should be, which is not just getting lost in there and not being able to come back out, and people get it, oh, here we go, I got 150 tasks that I know aren't going to get made, but we're all going to pretend and that they are, and the sales managers and the service managers and the BDC and everybody are acting like it's all verified calls, and we did all that, and really, and nobody really questions that can all be handed over to AI so that people can just get on with their lives.
Yep. I think I hear, doomsday naysayers, and anybody in any time in history, something new can be twisted and contorted to use for bad things. But I think there's going to be a lot more positive things happen as a result of it. Some of those things are going to happen. It's going to be unfortunate. I'd learn unlike anything I've ever talked about, I'd learn as much as you can while you can right now, and get into places where people are talking about it. Even my own opinions about EVs and AI has changed because I listen to understand. And because of that, I've changed my opinion. And there's been somebody say, Russell, that wasn't your talking point 6 months ago. Well, I have more information now. So I changed my mind. It's okay to change my mind, isn't it? Sure. Absolutely. I love that. Anyway, Charity, go ahead.
Well, and just like the NVIDIA, or let's pick Tesla, just like that stock is going up and down, it ebbs and flows with EVs as well. And I'm sure it will with AI, but I think everybody will be happy to get rid of the CRM, or just be able to go to the CRM and say, hey, send an email to these people that haven't come back in 6 months or something. And that's it. That's all they have to do is just write a sentence.
Well, I think the future of these CRMs, this is some of the stuff that I get to see now that I was never even privy to before, as I start seeing emerging tech that maybe isn't there yet, but just in some of these conversations that I'm involved with, if you're already emailing people through Gmail or Microsoft Outlook or whatever it is that you're using, and you're calling people from your mobile phone, and you're doing all these things, there's technology today, and there's one dealer group I know that's using this type of tech, where if you just do what you say you're doing, you don't have to do it inside of the CRM. The CRM is just almost like a DMS. It just records the information. So if you need to go back and reference it, but by you calling somebody, by hitting this button instead of this button on your phone, it's recording the information. It's making it effortless. You shouldn't have to log in and have this redundant duplicate entry. Oh, I did the email here. Oh, I emailed them from my cell phone. Or I can't do it from home because it's not server based, or because I've got these company firewall protections that are overly risk averse. So I can't do my job. So I had to text them, and they texted me their driver's license on an unsecure text format. And then I had to print it and fax it to somewhere, and all these things that should have been eliminated a long time ago. That technology in the very, very near future is, if somebody's doing what they're supposed to be doing the right way, which there are a lot of salespeople that do stay in touch with their customers. They're on the phone with them all day long. They just don't log it in the CRM.
Yep.
They're going to get credit for it. And the ones that smoked it, it should be revealed.
Yep. Yeah. You're all about the accountability. That's for sure. And it's changing fast. I absorb as much as I possibly can. It's hard for me to grasp some of the stuff, but it's exciting and it's innovative and it's coming. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So I say, get in and start learning and reading it, and understanding everything you can. Yeah, there's always something. But boy, some of these rooms, I hear people exchange of ideas and something that a dealer bought because it's AI, and it turns out it's really not AI. It's some artificial or automated program that got oversold, and
which is most of the AI tools that exist out there.
Yes. Yeah. And okay, so instead of 16 screens, now they have 19 screens. Oh, that's going to be eliminated at some point in time in the future. I really believe that, and I believe AI is.
I think it's being eliminated right now.
Yeah,
you're already, and that's called RPA, repeatable programmable actions. Then you're talking about
say that again.
Repeatable programmable actions, or they call it IFTTT. If this, then that. So if this, like I use that on my Google Home. If the sun goes down, turn the outside lights on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah.
And then in the morning, so that a lot of people will say that's AI, but it's really not. It's just an RPA event. But what we thought AI was 5, 10 years ago, that's what it was. Now you've got large language models, or LLM.
Yep.
So large language models can actually think for itself and get smarter as it goes on. The next generation, which they're saying by 2027, 2030, which is when computers are going to become a lot smarter than human beings, because it's not there yet.
Right.
Not the singularity 2045, but in 2027, 2030, you're going to have AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, where computers can start thinking for themselves. Think HAL 2001: A Space Odyssey type deal. And
what a great movie, Jay. I love it. Yeah.
Right. And that's when things are going to get very interesting. And that's when people aren't going to have a choice of whether or not they want to get on board with it. The computers will make it basically impossible for them not to.
Yeah, we never get to everything, and we're coming up on the hour. And I want you to talk about what you want to talk about the last couple of minutes here. And this, Charity, unless you have an additional question. I want you to convey a message to all of you out there listening, and then you better pay attention and like and love them and share them and stuff like that. Because if you don't really know Brian Kramer, this is a way to find out a little bit more. Or if you want to find out more, you can hop in some of the rooms. All I know is if you want to find more out about Brian, it's real easy to find out because he's everywhere. But yeah, please share something that you're passionate about, something you would like to have talked about that we get a chance to talk about, and please.
I think that I don't know, there's so many things. I could talk to you guys for another 3 hours. I mean,
we could engage too, but yeah.
So I would say it's something that really gets misconstrued a lot, and a lot of people will accuse me and have accused me even when I was in dealership. Oh, you're just trying to replace people. You're trying to automate things and replace humans with computers. And that's that I would say it's conspiracy theory. For them, it's reality. But here's the reality of it. I don't like wasting time, and I don't like completing tasks and checking the box and doing things like that in a monotonous, redundant way. And I'm like obsessed with eliminating that from everybody's life. Even my personal life. I just can't. It's like nails on a chalkboard. So when I'm running towards technology or I'm doing all these things, it's to eliminate that, because I want to work smarter, not harder. And I want to be able to go on more vacations and enjoy life and travel and see all these things, instead of sitting there clicking through a bunch of, all these, redundant emails and have to unsubscribe from all these things that can be automated. Wow. And the list is never ending. But I think that if there's one giant takeaway that I would like to, communicate to everybody in the dealership world, is you got to fixate less on this change management and the technology and DMS stack, and all that stuff's going to change. And it continues to change, and it's going to change faster than our minds can even keep up with over the next 10 years. What's going to make you insulated and impervious to being replaced by AI or anything like that, because I've been writing software code at night on Google Gemini, and I'm not a coder. I never even went to college. So for me to be able to do that it creates all these opportunities that don't currently exist. But here's what AI is never going to be able to do. It can replace a manager, and a manager is somebody who enforces tasks being done. Did you do this? Did you do this? Why didn't you do this? But a leader is somebody who shares a vision and rallies people around it. And to Charity's point, they say, this is the why. And then they get everybody else bought into that why, to where people feel like they're changing the world, or they're making things better for the ones that are coming behind them. And if you don't know how to recruit, attract, develop, promote, and retain top talent, the top people, your job is about to become those leaders in the dealership that can't do those things I just mentioned are in for a real wake-up call. And it doesn't matter what technology comes in. It doesn't matter what changes in the dealership or how all of this stuff we're talking about that's going to change. You're basically you're insulated from whatever happens when you're that anti-fragile, and you're able to be elastic and be able to change as the business changes. I think that's the most important trait moving forward, is being able to find the right people, be able to, teach leadership, be a leader, and then be able to to install a culture of trust and empowerment, because as this world becomes more decentralized and people become that much more transparent, the information becomes so readily available. Those are the skills that are going to become the most important. So if I was going back, 30 years to when I got in the car business, that should be what everybody's focused on. If they want to become the most irreplaceable associate out there, you have to learn those skills. And people that are resistant to those are going to be replaced.
Yeah, you heard it right here, Brian. Listen, thank you so much. I so believe managers just light a fire under people and make sure they get stuff done. Leaders, they get inside, they inspire and motivate, and people that want to be a part of something more. And there's a huge difference between the two. You just pointed that out. Everybody, thank you. Like him, loving another extremely successful episode of WTF, and that's What the Fixed Ops. But now you know a little bit about then and now. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brian.
Yeah.